Fantastico.
So I'm the facilitator of this meeting, and I'm looking at the agenda. This first thing that it asked us was to confirm that recording. We heard the recording confirmed. The next thing it's asking us for is introductions. So if everyone wants to introduce themselves, please, and state what their role is in this meeting.
Hi, my name is Christopher Reese, and I'm the host.
Who wants to go?
Go ahead, Hank.
My name's Harrison Platt. What is my role this week?
You are.
You have the jokester and the timekeeper today.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
Oh, my turn?
Your turn.
Oh, my name is Kyle, and I am the challenger for this meeting, Team 3.
And I am Yvonne, and I'm the facilitator. So the next thing it's asking us for is the joke. My favorite.
So I thought it'd be funny if we had Siri tell us a joke, because she's so much better at it than I am.
Siri? Okay.
Siri, tell me a joke.
How much room do you need to grow a fungus? As mushroom as possible.
As mushroom as possible.
There you go. Thank you, Siri. I'll get a timer going for us as well.
That was a good one. Good job, Hank. I like that joke.
Yeah, I came up with it all on my own. So original.
Okay, so the next thing it's asking us for is our team building activity. And our team building activity this week is from Office Vibe. It required a little bit of thinking in advance of the meeting. I'm sure that we all did that. So what it's saying is that who we are is shaped not only by our genetics, but also by our experiences. I think we've all talked about this before. And it's asking for us to think about a defining moment in our life and briefly share it with our teammates and explain how it influences you now. And then it's asking us to comment on each other's responses. So if we can each take 60 seconds to comment on that, I'm sure we can stick to our timekeeper. If it's okay, we go in a scheduled order. So Chris, Kyle, Hank, and then me. Is that all right? Or do you guys want to?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
You good with going first, Chris?
I'm on the right content discussion 4.1, right? Okay.
4.1, we're on point number 4, team building activity.
I'll go second. Let me read this.
You want to go second? Okay, think about a defining moment in your life. Briefly share it with your teammates and explain how it influences you now. Kyle, did you want to briefly tell us about something?
Sure. I probably had talked about it before, but one of my friends, Michael Hotshire, he passed away in Iraq. He was my best friend, and he had been in the military a little bit longer than I had. And he had helped shape me into becoming a very powerful and great leader. I used to take things very seriously, and he told me right before he died, he said, Kyle, you shouldn't take life too seriously, otherwise you're never going to enjoy life the way it was meant to be. And I hold that true, because you should always find some humor or some enjoyment. Try to find the enjoyment out of experiences. I think that's really important. I think that if you just, are just nothing there, life is going to pass you by, and then all of a sudden you're going to blink and you're going to not be able to do anything about it until it's too late.
It is a good story that you've told us before.
Yeah. It has helped define me. It is.
Yeah. It's definitely life impactful. I'm sure anyone who's had a loss of a friend, that definitely impacts you, but somebody who's able to give you great life advice right before they pass, that's worth $1 million right there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Chris,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
you want to give him feedback?
Oh, feedback. No, yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely
that was beautiful.
definitely good. I think
Thanks, man.
those are good words to live by. To be honest, I think some people they do take life too seriously. You know, uh, let's just take it day by day. You know. Yeah, and then I think you told us that in the last meeting too. Yeah, so
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I remember sharing it before.
Hmm.
I like to always. That was one of the first things I actually told my wife. So
Really
she actually
lighthearted
really, it
first date.
Yeah.
was like first date. By the way, I never take. No, it really has defined me as a leader, and after that, my team members loved who I was because I actually was empathetic and very empathetic and sympathetic at the same time. So
Mhm.
that was really it was life altering when I don't know if it was because he passed or because of what he said, but I took it to heart when with what he said when he passed. So.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for sharing that with us. That's deeply personal, and we appreciate you being able to do that with us. Hank, did you want to share next, or Chris, did you want to jump in?
yeah, I guess I could go. I guess a real defining experience. I guess it was a little bit after high school, and I wasn't doing so hot in my classes. I guess like I wouldn't say I was just lazy, so I would pass my tests, but I got bad grades because I wouldn't do my homework. But
Mhm.
luckily I passed because there was a lot of in-class essays or in-class, and I was really good at those. So I knew I wasn't, you know, challenged. I guess intellectually challenged. I just didn't care. But there's a point where like my family, they're very competitive, so they want their kids to shine. So and I have a lot of family, so I have a lot of cousins, and they're doing really well, in high school, and they all finished school with 4.0, like high school with 4.0s and stuff. And I did feel pretty dumb, like maybe I don't know. I was just thinking, it took me a while to kind of get on track, and up until I got into Arizona State. And not saying like, ha, that's what you guys kind of get thing, like, so none of them, they started college, but they all ended up dropping out, even though they were the golden children, at the parties. And then, and here I am. And then I guess I wouldn't say I like rubbing into their faces, but when I make, Dean's List back to back, 20 feels pretty good,
Yeah.
especially posting my grade on Facebook and saying like, or I let my mom do that for me actually. Here's my GPA, I got 3.94. Let's go,
Ooh, good job. Good job.
and then and it's like I kind of feel it, and it's overall the experience is that like I think they kind of understand where they kind of put me. You know what I mean? Like in when we were younger, and then now I kind of understand where they were kind of standing at. Where your mom and your parents are bragging about you, but you don't really. I realize that me myself, I'm not really proactive and going out of my way and being like, hey man, forget that stuff, which in reality it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And it's like it really doesn't matter. And I'm not in any way calling my family like, thinking of them any less. I think there's
Mhm.
different, but it definitely, but because I've, and just because it was a little painful. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna admit that it was a little painful to kind of, really self-reflect during that time.
Mhm.
I think that might have put me on the right track. Maybe I did need that. Maybe I did kind of. I didn't care until the family parties. And just one day after when we graduated high school, that's where I was like, okay, I have to start doing something.
Mhm.
So that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, my family is kind of like that in the sense that my brothers all have wildly high IQs. They're big, super smart guys, and did well in high school and all that. But then when it comes to college, it's making that work for them was more difficult being on their own. And, you know, I'm not the smartest kid in the family, but I'm by no means a dummy. And it feels good to be able to put yourself out there and really just hammer out the work and feel the benefits and reap those rewards that you deserve.
I definitely realized that it was just more of me. I guess I wasn't working as hard as I actually thought I was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? And then when I realized,
No, I'm the same way. I hate homework, but I'll ace the test every time. And it's just,
you know,
it's frustrating to know that yourself as well. And that's when you dig deep and bring that out and just say, you know what, screw it. I'll do the homework. We'll get it done because I can easily do it. It's not that hard. It's just putting the time in.
for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. Any other feedback?
I agree with you. I hear what you're saying. I was actually the opposite. So I was one of those cousins you hated. I did really well in high school. I had no problem. I had my plan, had my backup plan, had all my ducks in a row, and then yeah. So
Well,
so yeah, but everyone has their own journey, and you know, sometimes you don't know it until you're going through it. So it's all good. It's all good.
it is definitely something I needed. So it's not that I'm not mad at them for being like that. You know? What were they gonna do? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's not like they weren't telling me like, hey, do better in school. Like it wasn't up to them.
No. Yeah. But yeah. So are they all, quick question, they're all coming to your graduation in May, right? At ASU, they're all going to.
It's a lot of people, so maybe we'll
That's okay. That's all right. They got to be there for the party, right? Kyle, did you want to give Chris some feedback?
No, that's awesome, man. I was a burnout in high school, man. I wore Jankos and whatever. And I rode a skateboard and stuff like that. And then I joined the military, and it changed me from being a child to being a man, because I had to see, I went through a traumatic experience of war. Mm-hmm. But man, like you shouldn't like, I understand, like you felt like there was pressure there from your family, but you know what though? That's cool that you're standing up on your own 2 feet. And what I always like to say is, don't let your family, define what you're going to be. You are going to make your own legacy. You are making your own legacy right now, going to school, graduating. Like you should not be dictated by your family. Now use that and it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
I was one of 3 kids that graduated traditionally. My brother graduated online high school, and my sister didn't graduate till she was 23 with her GED. So I understand what you're coming. I really understand what you're going through. I really do. Like you're creating your own legacy, man, and you're standing on your own. And I think that's awesome. I think that you should really, you should tell yourself that every day that you're doing a good job.
I do see the pressures though from this side. So now that I do have it, and I regret that I even shared that information, my GPA, with my family, and now they're holding me to it. Like,
yeah. Now you screwed yourself.
Yeah.
But don't let it though. Don't don't. You mean use it, and it's fuel. It's fuel. It's like it's fuel, man. It's like it's fuel. It's like coffee in the morning to wake you up. It's like it's fuel. It's like, you know what? I am going to do it. No one ever thought that I was going to be able to go through boot camp at all in the Marine Corps. And I showed everyone, man. And it was the best feeling in the world to see everyone's faces. Like, yeah, you thought I was going to drop out. You thought I was going to drop out.
Yeah.
It was the best feeling. So that I think you're doing really good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. We can all relate, and we're excited to see you and hear you graduate.
Yeah, see you there too, Yvonne.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna walk, and Dr. Chanley's like, yeah, that's what she pretty much said. Yeah, we'll see. we'll see. So hopefully, if I do, I'll email you and be like, all right, where are we
Oh,
meeting?
for sure, yeah.
Where are we meeting, Ben? Okay. Hank, do you want to define your okay.
Yeah. So one thing that's really helped cultivate myself, my personality, and where I've come from. I was really introverted and really quiet, like through high school and stuff. I held some leadership positions in my high school's ROTC program, and I really enjoyed that, and I did well. But it still never coaxed me quite enough out of my shell until I went to college. I spent my first few years at the U of A, so you can hold the booze for now. And when I showed up, I decided I was going to join a fraternity, so I rushed and got a bid, got in, and then I was forcefully given the role of pledge class president. So I was in charge of the rest of my pledge class of like 30 other guys my age just coming into college with no idea of what to expect from the fraternity life. And so leading those 30 guys that are very, outgoing and have that self-confidence behind them was also cool. I fostered that with myself and took the energy and positivity that they threw at me and opened myself to be a little bit more outgoing and ready to, take on a role that I would otherwise be uncomfortable in. So those guys really helped lift me up. And again, there were other guys that wanted to see me fail and shoot me down, but taking that and using that as my motivation really benefited and let me perform to a high standard in those positions. So that's one of those experiences that really did cultivate me as a person, as a leader, and just as an outgoing and empathetic person, and being able to get behind the people that have your back and the people that don't. So all in all, it was a good experience. Too bad I didn't finish at U of A. I kind of ran out of money, but now I'm here going to school at home, and I'm happy with where I'm at.
Good. Well, we're happy ASU has you. So we get to meet you, so that's a good thing.
Forks up.
Yeah, forks up. I still have to learn how to, is it this way? Not this way, right? It's this way. Ring finger. All right.
This way.
I don't want to hold down the wrong finger by accident.
Yeah, forks up.
No, I don't think that was it. That one I was looking for. Okay.
My parents are all U of A grads, so that's the fork I see.
Oh. Okay, how funny.
That's awesome, Hank, man. That's cool though. That's where you get to learn your leadership experience, bro. That's being in a fraternity. That's it's got to be pretty intimidating being young and coming in and and being kind of forced into it. I mean, you were thrown out to the wolves, bro, and you did it, and you did it really well. You tackled it head on, and it helped define who you are today. So that's awesome. Take that.
One of those things I didn't let scare me away, even though there's all that surrounding of like hazing and this and that and these big cocky guys that you have no idea. They've got all the control in the world and in their element,
Yeah. Oh, I know how it is. I know what hazing is firsthand.
Yeah, for sure.
It's intimidating, but in the end, you always just got to think ahead to the future, and you did. You're like, I'm not. It's not going to be like this forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew it. You got a hold of it, and that's good. That's a good job, man.
Chris, you want to give Hank feedback?
No, yeah, no, I know. I was thinking about how interesting it is that you're thrown into a situation like that. How much more experience, especially coming out on top, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've read stories about that before, where people are just force themselves into certain roles, they learn. I feel like they learn the fastest. They figure out like the easy solution to things. You know, they connect things faster because they're like in this kind of survival mode. You know,
Mhm.
and I think that's probably the best way to do it. To be honest, I've and I think that's great. I was just really just thinking about. It's just like your story just made me start thinking about like other situations, like how I could put myself into those kind of things.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, that's really cool.
Cool.
Sorry, no, like I mean, like
No,
no,
don't worry.
like no, I'm just thinking. It's just that, and then you said you were in like a JRTC too.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and
I took some leadership roles there as well.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot, but it was more of just me and my buddies hanging out, and it's more like a club thing. We all ran it. We all had the leadership positions there, so we
Yeah.
just kind of treated it as our own club.
oh yeah, when I was in high school, I was in the NJROTC.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was Air Force.
I was in charge of the color guard, so I know about
Oh,
it.
Oh,
okay,
very
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in charge of a drill team with the rifles.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and then I was also on the marksmanship team, the air rifle team.
Oh snap.
And that was
Very
fun.
nice.
I had a friend who once competed with the DTWA, and
Oh yeah.
he broke his finger and he won. He took it home. Yeah.
What a madman.
He took his finger home?
No, the belt on the rifle had caught his hand when he was spinning it. It snapped his finger backwards, broke it, and he kept going.
Well, good. That's a good thing.
And he won. Took first place home.
Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. I think it's my turn. Is it my turn? Did everyone give feedback? Okay, so I mentioned a little bit when Chris was sharing his story that I was one of those, it appeared everything kind of came easy. Don't get me wrong, I worked hard. I had a lot of other things going on, but I was able to do pretty well in high school and had a plan. Actually wanted to go into the Air Force and had, you know, I wanted to be an attorney and, you know, kind of had everything all scheduled out. And I had my first daughter when I was 19, so it kind of derailed things, but you know, you fall down, you get back up, everything was going well. And then we had our second daughter, and I was 24, and she was born with some health issues. And that was the one thing that defined me, because before it was always like, whatever happens, you can come up with a plan, things will be fine, everything will work out, it's all in control. You know, if plan A doesn't work out, you got plan B through Z, it's all good. And I, when you have a child that is sick, you don't get very many choices. And it was definitely a defining moment, because I realized I was not in control of anything at all. Not for 1 minute, not into the next minute. So it was a very humbling experience. And yeah, so that was it for me. Influences me now. Just kind of, you know, I mean, I'm still about the plans, but I think now it's more so of realizing that if the plan doesn't work out the way you want, that sometimes, you know, in retrospect, it could be 20 years later, but in retrospect, you realize that it works out exactly how it was supposed to. So it all works out for the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Well, you know, whenever my family has faced, you know, those trying times, the biggest thing that we always come back to is it's a test of faith, and that you need to just keep doing what you can. Not everything is going to be in your control, so there's no point into worrying about it. You know, you can do the best you can, but don't worry about the things you can't. And to just take that as, you know, a trial of faith, and that you have to push forward for that bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to learn at any point in life. Not to let it bring you down when you can't do anything about it. Instead, find a way to lift it up.
Yep.
I think there's definitely like, positives and painful experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that, it's not funny, but I mean, like, it's coincidental that, it's like one of my cousins, he's having his kid, and I'm very jealous. I think maybe I'm just jealous of my family, but it turns out that it looks like his first kid is going to have some health issues too. And I think it's I'm very proud of him for being able to stay positive through it. And the kid's not even born yet, so I can imagine, the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but he found something positive, and it really, so.
Clinging to that. That's important. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing.
I have 2 children. I have 2 girls, and I had my first daughter when I was 24, and no, 25. Sorry, and children change your life. I was very self-absorbed. I partied a lot, and I knew that once I had my child, it wasn't just about me, but the thing is, I thought the first thing that when I had my child, I was like, you know what, now I'm not going to be able to do everything that I wanted to do. That's not right. And no one should think like that. It's just cool because now those 2 children and your children get to see you graduate, and then that, like, you're providing, like, you're being a role model for them. Like, you're role modeling for them to put them on the right track. They're like, what, Mom did that. That is awesome. When my wife and I graduate together, my daughter's going to see that, and it's going to be amazing. And I think that really helps shape us, as older individuals. And you know what? I actually prefer going to college at this age, because I'm actually taking it seriously. If I would have gone when I was 22, 23, still in the military, still boozing it up, I probably wouldn't have taken it seriously. I probably would have dropped out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. And that's so. I mean, even though it's postponed, it doesn't necessarily mean that got to take that out of my life experience. I can't do that. No, you can do it. You just have more people to do it with now, and you have a better support system.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. And I'm sorry about your kids' health issues. It's made you a stronger person. I can see that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. The next thing it's asking us is about team member preparedness. We need to identify the readings that we have not yet completed. In the agenda, point 5, it lists every single one of the readings and videos. And they want us to identify anything that we have not read. So we'll just go in order. Chris, do you want to go first?
I was just trying to pull it up on my phone. I think it's here. We're identifying. Yeah, no, I did everything. I read everything. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I read everything, but I had to skim a lot of it, just because there's just so much stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I did go through all the readings.
Okay. Kyle?
No, nothing.
Okay, but you're doing it, you said between tonight and tomorrow to get those notes submitted?
Yeah.
Right, okay. You do have the challenger role this time. It might be difficult for you to jump in for talking about things, but I also feel like you probably can pull it off. Yeah. And I did all the readings, watched all the videos, did my notes. So we're going to move on. The next point is Dr. Chanley's feedback, since she joined our meeting and gave us the feedback verbally also, and I think we all read it. Was there anything that we needed to talk about?
I just think we should roll with the agenda this week and keep it, again, not strict, but a bit more lean, just because there's a lot of stuff, and it is a lot of opinions and this and that, and I don't want us getting swept away into a political, debate.
I agree. And I think that that's where you're going to come into play as the timekeeper this week, Hank.
Yeah, we're at almost 30 minutes now.
Well, and I think that that's good, but I think the point that I was trying to make is we need to make certain that the comments that we're making about the readings and the contributions that we're making don't get too far off topic, but also don't extend too far. There's 13 items for readings and videos we had to look at. That was a lot of material. And some of it could be what she had warned us on, hot button topics. Some of it could be very political. It could take very personal levels. And so although it's very important that we all share that, that's where timekeeper comes in and making sure that we're not going on for 10 minutes about one thing and, not leaving any time for something else. So.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
I agree with you.
Cool.
Chris, do you have anything you wanted to talk about Dr. Chamley's feedback?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I've already, I definitely feel that I did lose control a little bit of facilitator, but that's not like, it's not your fault, it's my fault, I was too not present. It was just, I was just so worried about being the facilitator and see how I could do a great job at it. I think I just lost it, and then I just gave it up, but it was something that I do want to practice, and just because. And then it was cool because I think the next videos she interviews her sister-in-law, and she talks a little bit about keeping control, and so it kind of works out. So my experience is kind of keeping pace with that. So, and then I did ask her too, what would one do? If you guys have any tips, especially you guys have experience in, especially you, Yvonne, what would you advise, especially of my personality, if I was facilitating a meeting, and I start to see lose myself to the number 2 person, and how would I take control, or regain control? There you go.
Yeah. Constructive criticism, I think it's a confidence thing, and you have no reason to be self-confident, to lose that self-confidence. You're very strong. You have experience. We've all seen it. We all feel that you have that. So it's just a little bit of your own self-assuredness. The only thing that I could suggest, and I would suggest this to other team members, is practice the agenda on somebody that you know very well. Your girlfriend or your mom would be excellent choices.
Okay.
Because if you can, so to speak, pitch them or follow that agenda with them, that's the person who you are going to have your most self-confidence, your most, nervousness with, believe it or not. And so if you can go over it with them and feel strong with that, then you're going to be 10 times stronger when you approach us.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely.
Just something to think about. I mean, we know that you can do it because you work at Starbucks, you lead a team, and you work with customers. That's a big thing.
I don't see, and that's my thing, is that I don't understand it when it comes to,
Yeah.
I don't know. My personalities are just different when it comes to school and work.
Yeah, everyone does. Everyone's multifaceted. We all are. We're all humans. So person you get at work and the person you get at school and the mom that I get with each of my 3 different kids and, all of that, we all have different layers. So there's nothing wrong with it. But that's the thing I could suggest. I know people that have done it in other teams, and they said that really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'm actually taking notes on that.
Yeah. A good thing too is when someone a mentor of mine actually gave me that suggestion, and I thought he was full of it, but I tried it on my husband, and it actually worked really well for me because I saw him losing focus, and so I refocused him. That's a learning skill. That's a practice. And he went to interrupt me, and I ceased it. That was a big thing. So it's just, those little things. It helps you.
Okay.
I don't know. May I ask, this week, since we have basically 3 meetings, did you want to take over as facilitator for one of those this week?
No, it's all right. I mean, I think next week we can. Oh. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could try again if that's okay.
So, did you want to take over the one that is immediately after this, which is the review of the written report from the other team, or did you want to take over tomorrow's assignment discussion, which is the interview questions?
Yeah, I'll probably do tomorrow's discussion, just because
Yeah.
I haven't gone over the
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll note that.
That's-
You're going to be facilitator. And that way, at least it gives you one more extra help. No big.
Okay.
Okay. Kyle, did you want to give us feedback on Dr. Chanley's feedback?
Honestly, it's, Dr. Chanley has a certain curriculum that she's trying to teach, and she has a certain way that she's teaching. And I'm not going against what her feedback was, but that works for this kind of setting, this kind of situation. Every situation is different. Not every virtual team meeting is the same. I know I'm best friends with an individual that works from home, and he does nothing but manage teams. And I've talked to him, and I've asked feedback from him about how he manages teams, and he loves personality. He loves personality in his teams, and not to say that we shouldn't dial it back, you and I, a little bit, and when we talk over each other, and but you know what though, I think it's also because there's a time lapse on the laptops, because sometimes when someone starts talking, or you think that they're finished, there's a time lapse. That's why I'm not a huge fan of virtual teams, because it's just there's a lapse there versus being more formal with someone. You can see their body posture, expression. The only thing you can see is my head and my weird facial hair that I'm trying to grow in. But I just think it's the feedback that she has is good for this setting, and I don't think it's necessarily something that you could take it, but it's not something that I would really focus on in other meetings. I think that this team is very, very good as compared to the other team. I'm sorry, I think that this team is really good.
Yeah.
As compared to the other team. That's just my opinion.
One thing I thought of, stop me when injecting too much, but one thing I thought of when she suggested that we watch our old video, and it's hard to watch ourselves. First of all, I hate the way I sound. I hate my voice. Never sounds the same way that it is in my head when I hear it in a recording. I'm like, who is Minnie Mouse talking? And I'm like, oh, that's me. Okay. So that's annoying. But one thing I thought of is I one time wrote down everybody's names that was in the team. So I'm going to write Hank, Chris, Yvonne, Kyle. And then I had a stopwatch, and I timed every time the person spoke and when they finished speaking. And then I added it up at the end. And it's really an easy, it's, sophomoric, but it's a very easy way of seeing who's commanding the topic. So just a little something, I'm going to do it because I need to rein myself in, but, just a suggestion.
It's a good thing. It's
So,
actually a smart
okay,
way.
did anyone else want to add to that? Nope. Okay. And the
Hank
next
was
thing,
talking.
pardon?
Hank,
Oh no, I was just saying that's a good tip to time everyone talking and see how that reflects in an overview of that.
Also, you're your own worst critic. So, like, I'm going to look at the video, and I'm going to see 10 million things that I feel I did wrong that nobody else caught, and I'm going to make that improvement next time. So, just always a good thing. Okay. Can we move on? Do you think? You guys good? Chris?
Yeah, we're good. Solid.
The next point 7, is to review the agenda and make any needed changes. Everyone have the agenda open and looked at, reviewed? Was there any suggestions for changes that anybody wanted to make?
No, I think it's fine. Just sticking with it.
So we're doing Tuesdays and Fridays?
Yep.
We're always doing Tuesdays and Fridays.
Okay.
We just made a change this week.
So I'm just out of it.
That's all right. It's all right. Thank you, everyone, for accommodating. I know it was difficult for all of
Yeah,
us.
I do
Talk
appreciate it,
about
guys.
Kyle's
You guys,
self-imposed. I think Kyle came up with was the one who came up with the
The essay.
punishment on the team criteria. Yeah, I can't
What?
recall.
what did you say? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Go ahead, Chris. You take that one.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna need that one-page double-spaced essay, my brother.
No,
Oh,
not double
man.
paced. Single spaced.
Half
Oh,
space.
yeah, all right.
Half space.
What do you think that topic should be, Hank?
Oh gosh. You know,
We should probably do
write it on gumdrops in Candyland.
Jeez. I'll Google a document. Yeah.
Do we want to move on?
Yeah, we do. The next thing is point 8, the discussion of the readings and videos. This is the meat of the meeting. And there's prompts. So I don't know if you guys have the notes open. I'm going to follow along on this, but also on our notes. First point, and then just so that we're all aware, I think we're talking about Chris first.
Okay.
Kyle will insert you as challenger, so it'll go Chris, Hank, me, and then if there's something that you don't, that you find an opposing role in the challenger of what we're saying, then I'm sure since you are very good and very respectful, you'll join that. But one thing we do need to mind is that we're limited time, so the challenger role should probably be timed. What do you think, Hank?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay. Should we, what do you think, wrap it up in like a 60-second challenge, two quick sentences about something that would prompt an opposing devil advocate view? Just,
yeah, that's good.
I think that, help me out, guys, but the challenger role really is to make sure that we don't just go into groupthink and we're all going, yes, I agree with that. That's true, that's true, that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't worry, I got this.
All right.
Okay, so the first article were the articles on group creativity. There was the group creativity and introduction and the virtual team collaboration and innovation in organizations reading. Her question was, based on the 2 articles, how is your team encouraging and how might it be discouraging the team's creativity? So Chris, you are up, buddy.
Okay, so for relative to encouraging, I put that our group is encouraging creativity because of our different experiences, right? And I think that diversity does stir the thought, especially in a team setting. Another encouraging point that I did make was that different personalities, and then that our team specifically allows each other to provide their perspectives in the discussions, and then I think we do kind of take it at an open mind. We're all here open-minded, hearing each other, and it doesn't feel like there's still like lingering conflict among each other. And then in discouraging, how I think our team is discouraging, I put I think discouraging creativity is that sometimes I think the varying levels of positions and experiences, I think, and it's not, I want to say it's done on purpose, but I just sometimes I feel like I'm not, as experienced as, some of you guys. And then I also put the inability for people to adapt to maybe technologies. Like with me, like I haven't learned how to use Google Docs until this class. So, so those are my 2 discouraging. That's it.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, Hank, you're next.
Yeah, so for what I have on group creativity is that an important component of the group creative process is the sharing of ideas. Although shared ideas can be stimulating, exposure to others' ideas can actually limit one's abilities to think divergently. And that's what the book said, and I thought that was, a profound statement in saying, sharing all of our ideas can actually limit each other in the fact that, again, you get sucked into that group think. And I thought that was an interesting way it was put. When it comes to our team, we are sharing our ideas openly and frequently. But I think that's not discouraging creativity. I think the fact, once we get to the diversity side of this, that since we are such a diverse group, from age to gender and backgrounds, that those ideas that come forth are almost always so wildly apart that we can then take those pieces, collaborate, and turn that into a creative idea using everyone's individual thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have.
Yep, I agree. So that would leave me, basically I agree with both of you, and I kind of just put it in one sentence, and I said, for encouraging our team's creativity, we share our diverse opinions and accept our individual experiences. Again, I'm going to say once again, I appreciate the warm environment that we've created and the synergy we've developed in order for us to be able to do that. I think that's important. And yeah, as far as discouraging the team's creativity, I'm not sure that this really applies to us, but I couldn't come up with anything else that really applied to us because we are rock stars. Professor, are you getting this? We're rock stars. But the one thing that I have seen in other teams that can discourage a team's creativity is when subgroups are used too often. So it doesn't really happen with a team our size, but with larger teams, you'll always get the little subgroups, or for lack of a better word, cliques that kind of jump off, and that discourages group creativity.
Because in that sense, when they clickify, those 4 or 5 people just become a homogenous one.
Correct.
And you lose out on that diversity factor.
Correct.
Even if that clique is a diverse group.
Correct.
It's just going to group think themselves.
Exactly. That's exactly the point, is when they, they meld together because their personalities are alike, then you don't have the devil's advocate. How are you hanging in there, Kyle?
Good. I'm just sweating right now. I'm sorry. I'm out of it.
Don't worry about it. Was there anything that you wanted to?
Sure, yeah. Because I can just think like that. The way our team encourages creativity is we encourage discussion amongst each other, and it allows us to elaborate on the things that we've had experience with. And another thing that I don't really see how our team discourages creativity. We're pretty encouraging. I mean, we're pretty flexible. Mm-hmm. We are. But there is one thing that I would like to challenge on it, and that's what Chris had said. You said that one way that our team discourages creativity is because of the amount of positions. I think it was positions that you had said.
I said the different levels of positions and experiences. Yeah.
Do you think that really discourages team creativity in this team?
Not in this team specifically, but I think it does. It can like personalities like mine, and I really revere authority, especially like you two with the experiences that I don't have, that I'm, really jealous of. I guess jealous, yeah. That's not the right word, but I'm going to use it. Jealous of you guys. I want that experience too. So I really, I kind of sit back and just listen to what you guys say, not just you guys necessarily, like even at work, someone who's got like maybe 10 years on me, or a different higher position, and they're trying to give me suggestions about things and what I should do. I just take it in, and I don't really stop and critically analyze for myself. I kind of just do what I'm told sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense in that type of setting. I know I've done the same. One thing I actually would like to bring up, Kyle, you mentioned flexibility, and it's funny, I have that as one of my notes here as well. And it says, organizations with a greater extent of functional flexibility are both more productive and innovative than less flexible organizations. And I just thought, he's got it down, baby. He's got it figured out. Yeah, and I think that's interesting.
You're in Arizona, right?
Uh-huh.
I actually drove to Arizona, looked at your notes, and then I drove back home. So
Spot on.
I'm sorry. All the while I was sick. I actually walked it.
Yeah. And with regards to flexibility and how that, kind of works with our team, in that sense, is with an online group, I think you are much more flexible than you would be in a face-to-face basis. I wouldn't say all the time, but you are given a lot of different options and routes to problem solve, whether it's using like a Google Doc or a video conference or whatever it is. I think video and online teams are much less restricted than people would typically think from the outside looking in. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and that you brought it up is just funny. So
Thank you.
Okay, so the next article or articles and videos on diversity include the Why Cultural Diversity Matters, Great Teams Need Social Intelligence and More Women, Diverse Teams Feel Less Comfortable, Diverse Teams Are Smarter, and the Power of Individual Cultural Values. There was a lot of material in that one.
yeah.
The question I didn't see, what I saw was the synopsis of it and, asking us to notate on that, and that's what I did. And I don't know if I erased this when I was trying to expand my box, but the question that it notes on the agenda is, why should you, as a leader, work on building diverse teams?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, based on our readings, understandings, and you do have experience, so stop knocking yourself. Why do you, as a leader, think that you should work on building a diverse team?
Your a leader's ability to gather and utilize both internal and external information. I do think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then a second point that I am going to make is that, which is pretty much flows off of that, diversity in teams allow integration of varying perspectives and solutions, especially like, if you're working at Samsung and then Apple, and then you're about to lose your job, you're going to apply to Apple, and I'm pretty sure Apple's going to, so that they can see what's going on over there and how you guys do things over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In relation, just a quick question for you, in relation to the cultural diversity, though.
Oh, and cultural diversity.
Cultural diversity.
Oh, well, it was
to
more
our readings. Go on.
right,
Sorry.
Yeah. No. I think it's the same kind of point, I guess, that I make, because Samsung is a, Korean-based company, and I think they have a certain order of things, and and I know that Apple is they try to be more like Google, where they're very free-flowing. In terms of cultural diversity, they have a different lens on, the way they see their work and how they go about it. That's another point that I did put. Everyone has a different lens in which they perceive information and how they go about solutions. I know that, in China, they do math differently. So I think they engineer things in their head differently, coming up with solutions, and I know that in United States, I feel that we're we need people like that, because I don't think our education supports that.
I agree. Kyle, do you need to take a bio break, dude? Are you good?
No, I'm just I got this. I'm good.
You want to get some water, some Gatorade or something?
I got it here in my my Denny's home cup.
Okay. All right.
Mind if I actually get a water real quick? I'll be back in 5 seconds.
All right. Okay, no problem.
Do you mind if I go and I say something?
Yeah, please.
Why me as a leader should work on building diverse teams? Because you build on you elaborate on new ideas. Like, you have new ideas that you're bringing to the table. And as cultural diversity, you have people from different countries bringing different types of ideas to the table. It's also better. It's also, you'll be more productive as well too. You'll be more productive as well. I actually prefer a team not just with men, but with women and all ethnic backgrounds, because people were taught a different way, so they have a different way of thinking. It encourages creativity. for cultural diversity. So is that what that thing was looking for? That article? That's what I got.
Well, there are several articles and videos, but it was asking us basically, why would you, as a leader, work on building a diverse team? And, it made me reflect, Chris, when you were talking. I think you were talking about your current experience and your current team and how you have one particular person on the team that personality-wise you're not really melding with. Really, I think you said like her. But you realize that she's a very important part of your team, and she's a great contributor. So based on that, why do you think as a leader it's important, in the understandings that our readings and videos had, to build that kind of a team as opposed to somebody that you're just a team that you're just homogenous with? You want to work out with, you want to go hang out with afterwards, you want to spend your holidays with.
Right.
Why is it better to have that diversity?
I think she definitely brings something. I guess.
But the person aside, the element of it. Yeah. What do you think the benefit of the diversity of the team would be?
I guess it keeps everybody, it keeps me on my toes, to challenge, my thought. And I know most people, they don't like her, and I don't like her, but I do. Well, I mean, because I'm just trying to roll off of that sense. She does do a lot, and even though her micromanaging and that I think it does good. It might not do good for me, but I do see it does well for other people, right? Especially new people that we bring in, so we're going to need that. And I don't do well with new people, like that are coming in. And so I guess, in terms of diversity, that's why we do need her. And I would advocate to not let her go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Your time, Hank. Please.
Yeah, if I could jump in, you were saying how she keeps you on your toes. So in my notes here, I thought something that works just well with that is it says creating a more diverse workplace will help to keep your team members' biases in check and make them question their assumptions. So it's the same way that she keeps you on your toes, but it's more that you're checking yourself and the way that you would bias how you would work, and those elements, and allows you to reflect more critically on yourself. And again, check those biases.
For
so
sure.
I thought that was interesting to take off of that.
Absolutely. Hank, why should you as a leader work on building diverse teams? You've had a lot of team experience.
Well, one thing I really like with the teams that I work with is you should take people from other cultures because you are going to benefit. But on the same token, you should build a team that's accepting of your team culture. So they might have their own backgrounds, their own cultures, and that's great. And it's super important to have. But I think also teams do benefit from having a shared culture within it. That way, communication is easier. It flows better. People are less likely to take something as offensive if they just perceive it that way. So being able to, openly communicate and not take things out of context because your team culture contains that context is important. But as far as the benefits from cultivating a diverse team, is often, like we've heard before, you get those different viewpoints and understandings from a different background. We see it within our team now, Yvonne, you've brought up examples of, your daughters and how they challenge you to approach each one of them in a different manner. And, for myself, I've got college experience and stuff, and everyone else has something different to bring to the table. And it's the same thing if you're in a business and you want to have, a team that's going to push a new product. You can't just have people that are going to be building and designing the product. You need marketers, you need sales people, you need all these different parts to make it actually function. So it would be foolish to say, let me build and sell this product, but I'm just going to hire on a bunch of coders and software designers. Like, that doesn't make sense. you won't achieve that goal without different perspectives. And taking those perspectives into account is the most important part. So that's what I've got for you.
Absolutely. I have, it backs up what you guys are saying, all three of you. But basically, when we confront our own opinions that we might disagree with, that someone else is sharing, I think it promotes creativity. And it also helps you work on a resolution that maybe you weren't looking for. You find a resolution, a problem you didn't know you had, a question that you didn't know existed. So as long as you're, open and you allow that and you listen, I think that that's a good thing. I would much rather have a diverse team, and I would much rather have a team that challenges. There's always a challenger. I'd much rather have that than a team that everybody gets along, perfectly well. I've had both experiences, and to be honest, we created better work when we had when we were less homogenous.
It almost goes back to that chapter on conflict.
Correct.
How that can formulate a new path, even if both sides didn't realize what the solution could have been. Having that conflict brings about a solution that neither one of them would come up with on your own.
Correct.
So I think that's interesting.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's more of a challenge question. I totally agree with everything you guys are saying. Do you think it's important when we're doing recruitment for a team, or when we're trying to build a team? Do you think that's already been a team? So say you're bringing on someone different, from a cultural background. Do you think it's important that they adopt our culture within the team, or do you think it's important that they add to the team culture?
Mm-hmm.
Assimilation versus.
Yeah, you assimilate them into the culture, or they bring their own personality, their own way of thinking, and they add it to the team. Which is more important? Which one? I mean, like, which one would we more likely to go with? Do we make sure, hey dude, this is our culture, or hey, I like the way you're thinking. Let's bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is more important?
I think it is more important to have that person coming in kind of mix up the culture, just so that they're not always, you're not getting stagnant or stale. The teams in reference. I don't think that it's a good idea in teams I understand when someone comes in and there's some sort of level of assimilation, but I think the team should be flexible enough to understand that, things can change and it should change,
Mm-hmm.
and expect change,
Cool.
Yeah. An experience I had going into a team working, just kind of building off what you said. When I started working at the fish store that I was working at, everyone had their own set ways of doing how they wanted a project done or whatever, and how they would take care of an aquarium. And when I came in, I had no problem challenging my bosses and saying, no, that doesn't sound right. That's not how I'm going to do it. Because they would tell me, like, oh, this is the aquarium you're going to take care of. This is problems it's been having, this and that. And I looked at him and I said, oh, you're doing it all wrong. And he, obviously was a little bit surprised, but also was respectful in hearing my reasoning as to what I thought would be the best, next steps and actions to be taken. And so right from joining the team, I said, this is what I believe. This is what I've seen done. This is how I want to tackle it. And they were really accepting of that. And I think that's really important, that when you have a diverse team, to also use the diversity that they're bringing you. Because he could have just said, oh, no, we do it this way. Just do it that way. Just keep doing what we're doing. So it's not enough to be diverse. It's important that you show emphasis and a receptiveness of that diverse outlook and how that will affect your team.
To answer your question, Kyle, as to which one I want, I would definitely want the person who can respectfully join the team, but also make certain that they can approach us and challenge our group think. There's been so many occasions when you're doing everything status quo for so many years, and then a new person comes in and says, "What?" Just like you gave, Hank, "Why are you doing it this way?" And it opens things up. So yeah. Most definitely. Did we have anything else to add on the diversity videos and articles?
No, I think I said my part right.
Yeah. Okay. So the next part is the videos and articles on privilege. They were why and how facing privilege, the editorial, the costs of American privilege, male privilege, and why gender equality is good for everyone. The questions that Professor wanted us to speak about were what are some ways that these types of privilege can get acted out in teams, not necessarily our team, but in teams, and what are some other types of privilege that exist in our society? Chris, did you want to lead off?
Yeah. A couple of points that I made that these types of privilege get acted out in teams. Is that I think, men sometimes they think they naturally assume the role of authority, and I think sometimes guys, like within a group or within a team, they'll just speak up, and it's, and I feel like they're louder, and I think they think that they just take the role without really being given the role, or you know what I mean. Sometimes I see that. I think sometimes racial subgroups develop, in teams. I've heard about those. I think sometimes in, especially in the tech companies, people value the man's, the male engineer's opinion more valuable than a woman's. And then I think that these people, they wear biased lenses when in, using decision making. They're not really giving everybody a fair shot, especially, I think those in teams, privilege in teams. And I think some other types of privilege that I've listed is that, so just from personal experience, I'm half white and I'm half Filipino. I would say I get, the best of both worlds, but not really. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's halfway in both doors. I feel like I got half a foot in both doors. My girlfriend, she wants to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and I got, and she's white, and I really got to think about that. You know what I mean? Like, all right, well, I got to look at the demographics. Are there Filipinos, out there? Are there, which I doubt, and it's something that I do think about, like I wish I could move to, I feel like, I wish I could move to Wisconsin or without, this thing in the back of my head thinking like, I'm going to be outcasted, or I'm going to be, because my friend, he's from Georgia. He's from Georgia, and there's this one time he was telling me the story of him going into this Denny's, and the whole Denny's just shut up. They just stopped talking. They weren't like, they didn't do anything, I guess out of the ordinary, except it was just dead silent in there. And then he just thought it was just the most awkward experience. And it's just, I feel like white people in privilege that I guess you can just kind of move anywhere in the United States, not attacking, but like my girlfriend, she doesn't really think about my perspective, I guess, like, in places that she wants to move to. And I really got to be, those are things that I really have to be aware of. And then when we were in Arizona, we were stopped, just a random stop to prove our citizenship, which I thought was a little random.
When were you in Arizona?
Maybe like 3 years ago.
Huh.
Yeah. We're driving through, and then just this random cop was just like, oh, you guys got you guys got your citizenship card, and we're like, we got driver's license, and then we all look pretty different because my mom's Filipino, full Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
I understand me and my brothers come off as Hispanic, and my stepdad, he's also Filipino, very he looks very more Asian side, you know, of the,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so, and I'm not saying anything. It was just more rant on the sense that, you know, is this really random? Like how come you're not? Are you stopping us, asking us for citizenship just because we're brown? You know, and I get it. I'm not really that kind of person that calls people out on racism. I feel like I'm a little bit more relaxed with that kind of stuff. But that was one experience of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that in terms of privilege, you know.
I mean, for myself, what I'd put was like in a team setting, like a virtual team or even a professional team. One thing that you pointed out that I also have here is, you know, if a woman is talking or this or that, it's easy for men or anyone else that's biased to just kind of zone out and just not hear it and say, okay, well, she's just being a bitch right now. Like she's just, you know, and that is something that I think happens a lot more than people really realize.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would call it so much a privilege as it is, you know, just what was the word I was looking for? Just like a bias. You know, men are biased to say like, oh, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about or this or that. Who is she to talk to me that way or whatever? So I think that's something that happens in teams a lot. The other point that you made that I totally agree with is, you know, men can assume the role easily and just kind of assume if I'm the biggest, toughest guy in the group, I'm the leader now. I'm going to direct this how I see fit. And I think that is something that can easily happen if them themselves is not aware of it, or the team in general is just letting it happen, is not aware that they're assuming that type of role and is taking and acting on that privilege. But that's what I've got for that kind of bit.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
So for acting out, I wrote that what I see the biggest act out is not realizing that diversity exists and not being accepting of that diversity. It's more than just culture, nationality, and experience. There's just a lot of different, like our readings have said, a lot of different levels to it. I found it interesting that you guys both say that men automatically assume leadership roles.
Or men can.
So you think it's a gender thing, right?
I think no. Yeah, I'm pointing out the male privilege in it.
Yeah, that's true. I understand what you're saying. It's been my experience, not necessarily in team meetings, that men will assume those roles. I kind of feel like there's a lot of men that are very, very comfortable sitting back and letting someone else take control of the situation. But what I see the male privilege in is, how do I want to put this? When it comes time for opportunities of advancement, leadership generally will dictate and meld more towards the male, even if there is a female who might even be stronger in a situation, more experience, more, whatever. There's 99.9% of the time that there is.
For sure, yeah.
So that's the only thing that I've seen. As far as another privilege, I didn't really catch this one, but I think privilege of religion is something that is something that's kind of noted. So to speak, Christians okay, Catholics okay, any derivative of Christians okay, but if somebody is perceived as being something other than what would be a Christian religion, then it's kind of maybe just a little bit frowned upon, and I think that that's a privilege, in the region I'm in, I think so too, where I live in Southern California. It's kind of, and specifically in the city that I live in, there's like a church on every corner practically. A massage parlor on the opposite corner, but there's still a church on every corner. And it's kind of like talked about, you know, especially when the kids were little. Oh, where do you go to church on Sunday? Where do you, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's that kind of privilege I've noticed. Yeah.
That's not one that I've thought about much, really, but it makes sense to me at least.
Yeah.
I would almost rope Judaism in with that as well, just because that's kind of like a traditional
Christian and
Western,
Judaism.
yeah.
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of well accepted, you know, no real huge stigma behind it. I mean, there's plenty of people that go, oh, Jews this, Jews that, but
now I think back in the day it was, but now it's definitely the Muslim religions, you know. Even like Chris's beard. Beards are fashionable, but it's funny because now people, I think, take pause. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like more people take pause and think, is it a fashion choice or is it a religion choice? You know, so, yeah.
Yeah, like a big thing is a lot of people confuse.
I'll
like,
be right back, guys. I have to
Muslim.
use the bathroom.
Sure. A lot of people confuse like Sikhs and Muslims and this and that. And there's a lot of different facets of those religions that I think people are just kind of ignorant to and don't give much of a second thought to it, and just kind of rope them all into the same category. Right. And that's one of the big, you know, issues there.
Right. And that's exactly what privilege speaks to, is not understanding and accepting and, you know,
and being ignorant of something is just as much as acting on a privilege.
Yeah. Or being unaware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Through choice.
Maybe not through choice.
Well, you know, someone comes up to you and they say, oh, well, have you read this article about privilege or this or that? And they go, no.
Yeah.
They'll give them the article and everything else, but that's acting on privilege to say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to remain ignorant. I'm going to omit that information.
So these videos and articles and readings kind of had me spinning off, and I was watching a couple different TED Talks. I'm getting confused now. Was one of the ones, I think it was the male privilege video that we watched for this, that was talking about the gentleman who was in the book club, right? Or in the club, the potluck club. Okay, so he was in with a bunch of women, Kyle, and there was a team of 12 of them, 11 women, 1 man, and they got together once a week and talked about, you know, their classes or whatever, and they did potluck. And so there was a Caucasian woman, an African-American woman, and then this gentleman. And the Caucasian woman said something to, help me out, guys, said something to the effect of, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman. And then the African-American woman said, well, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman of color. Of color is very important. And then the gentleman said, you know, I just see a human. So that diversity right there and what you're seeing and how you're self-identifying is privilege, right? Yeah. What do you think, Kyle? Are you okay? You need bio break again?
No. I'm just, I was listening to you. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I have to see that video. No, what I guess the only thing that I can really comment on is I believe that males, I don't feel that they feel that they're privileged, but it's just, it's kind of like socially accepting that, and I don't know why it's come to these days. I mean, you would think that we'd be more open-minded, but it is. You see a lot more men these days in management roles versus women, and men assuming those roles and I think they just do it right out of the bat because they think that they almost, I don't know, maybe they're more deserving. I wouldn't know, but obviously that's not what I think, but I'm always willing to listen to a woman.
You know,
I know this, I'm married.
But I'm sorry. Quick question for you. Is the lack of acknowledgement of the issue itself? So, for example, Chris's story, he was driving in Arizona. We'll call it the dark time in Arizona because that was the law that they passed to be able to pull people over.
It wasn't 3 years ago. It was like 5 years ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. My grandparents lived there. I used to have to travel there quite a bit. And the fact that Chris and I, who are our skin tone is darker than yours, would have that would never, would it have ever crossed your mind, Kyle?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, that I do.
So you're saying that you drive down the street and you're cognizant of when a police officer's behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know. The popo.
I'm not worried about being called an immigrant, but I'm worried about getting a ticket.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I am. I really am. I always, put my, I do. I put my hands on the steering wheel. I'm like, yep, I'm doing it, man.
Look
I'm
at
doing
me
the
drive.
right now. I'm doing the 10 and 2s. I'm blinking. I'm putting that blinker on like 2 blocks ahead of.
But that's the point of privilege, and you're going to read that article about gender equality is different, or facing privilege, or the editorial, I think was the article. You're going to read the article and you're going to catch what I'm saying. It's not that you're worried about, am I breaking the law? Let me take pause and think, am I hands on 10 and 2? Am I acknowledging the speed limit? That's being a human. But stepping back and thinking to yourself, where am I? What time of day is it? Who's around that can acknowledge what the situation is? Just like being a female. You guys can walk down the street at any time of the day. It's a different experience when you're a female. Your grandparents and parents probably didn't sit you down and show you strike zones and how to defend yourself at the age of 12.
No, I watched a lot.
And cognizant when you're walking in parking lots, and how to hold your keys between your fingers. And those are very basic female things that if you haven't gone through that, then that is privilege, because you're privileged to not have to experience that negativity or that opportunity in your life. Does that make more sense?
I think that's right. Yeah. No, I mean, in that video, how the person, you were saying the white lady saw a woman, and the black lady saw a black woman, and then the white male saw that he was a human being. So it was like it really kind of defined like the levels of privilege, right? So if we're going down, it kind of went, from a human being, and then to just a person, just a woman, and then it got more and more specific as the levels of privilege, decreased, right?
It sure did. It sure did. I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was in high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and I went to school in Long Beach, and we were pretty diverse. We were very culturally diverse. So all the Catholics were there. So we had the Mexican Catholics, and we had the white Irish Catholics, and we had the Filipino Catholics. We all got along great. We all hung out. It was a wonderful experience. I loved my high school. But when we were in parties and the police would be called, the police would segregate us based on the level of our tans, we'll say. And those of us that were in Huntington Beach, which is a very affluent, white, wealthy neighborhood, would be first asked to leave those parties, be questioned. Why are you here? Who are you here with? What's your relationship to this house that you're in? What are you doing? Have you been drinking? The questions would go on and on and on and on. Sometimes as groups, sometimes separated, and it was intimidating. And that was the point. The point was, get out of my city. That was very clear. On the flip side, if we would go to or have a party in a neighborhood of, for lack of a better word, color, and there would be white people there, the police would get called. The police would look at that host and they would say, tell me who your friends are. They could stay. Everyone who you don't know has to leave. And so they would file past. So it wasn't a choice that the officers took. It was a choice that the officers gave. And I do remember one of my Irish Catholic friends were walking out of this party in a less desirable neighborhood, we'll say. And he was like, why do all the white guys have to leave? And my darker skinned Mexican and Filipino friend yelled out, how does it feel now? And I thought to myself, oh, that's dead on, man. Because it was always us that had to be filed out first. Unless I was dating a white person and then I was able to stay. But other than that, it was like, get in your car and we're going to escort you down the street. So that's just a note that I made on privilege.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. It's I don't know.
I typically don't like engaging in conversations like this, if I'm
Yeah.
being
I
honest.
know, and that's why she warned us about it.
Yeah, and it's true. It's
Yeah.
more like, and I feel like, passions get very...
Yeah. I agree. But I know that's why she said she's warned us about it. So, how are we doing on time, Hank?
We're good. We're just, once we wrap this up, we just wrap up the rest of the meeting, and we're looking at right now, I just checked, an hour and 20 minutes. So by the time we go through the last few items, we'll be an hour and a half, hour 40.
Right.
Good. Okay, sounds good. Okay.
Hold on. I'll give you guys my take on this.
No, go ahead.
I'll answer the question. What are some types of privileges that get acted out in teams?
Yeah.
Social standing. If you have a higher social standing, as well as say, for example, you're more well liked by everyone versus someone that's not, I'm sorry, excuse my language, kissing ass.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get more privilege than you would that other person.
Mm-hmm.
That is not. That's true fact. I've seen it many times. If you're in with the higher ups versus not, you're going to get more privileges. It's just the way it is. Also, I've noticed is racial superiority. I have legitimately seen a Mexican manager, one of my friends, Oscar, would always get the crap jobs. Oh, he was the manager and always get the crap end of everything versus on the white manager. I honestly believe it was because of Oscar. He was full blown Mexican, so he was from Mexico. I think maybe they had, not just because he was, I'm sure they didn't want to say because he's Mexican, but they probably because he couldn't understand very well. Also because he's maybe on a different shift. But I've seen many times where just that guy was always getting just the horrible things to have to do around the company versus that other person that was white, where he was getting the better jobs. He was getting more the jobs that he could actually accomplish that would the higher ups would acknowledge. You know what I mean? So I do believe, even though we don't want to say it, that is a form of racial discrimination. It is, and I think that is a privilege. It is. I've seen it. I mean, I've literally seen the guy, the Mexican manager, get the crap jobs manager versus the white manager, and it was crazy to me that they did that, and I still think that that's still existing in our society today. As far as also privilege, the way you dress. I could be a smart person, have an IQ of Albert Einstein, but if I dress, I don't know, in a long white tee and a pair of blue jeans, I'm not a smart person. Appearance. People always judge everything based off of appearance, and I think that like, who would you be willing to more go up to and talk to? Would you be more willing to go up and talk to a person that was wearing Janko's long white tee and a flat brimmed hat, or would you be willing to go talk to a person that had, freaking, I don't know, golf clothes on? I wouldn't want to talk to a golfer, but
I do.
That happens. I've seen it. You could walk down the street in a busy city and you can see it. People are more willing to go towards the person that is socially well dressed, accepted to be more dressed, versus the person that dresses maybe the way that makes him feel comfortable.
I do want to add us, because you were talking about the restaurant thing. I once applied at this restaurant for a host, because I wanted to greet people, and they told me, and my interview was for the host. They called me for the host, and then we had the interview for the host, and then when I got hired, they told me that I was going to be a dishwasher, and I'm just saying, and then when I went to ask them, yo, why would you guys move me to a dishwasher? I applied as a host or interview as a host. They were like, oh, we don't have any host positions. And then the week after that, they hired a new host. And not to, I'm just saying, but, it was a white girl, but I was like, okay, you know what I mean? And then they were very surprised when I couldn't speak Spanish, when everybody in the back could only speak Spanish. And I was like, nope, because I'm not Mexican, man.
It still happens. I mean, that stuff still happens.
Yeah.
Another one more privilege I do want to say is people with a higher income get more privilege than the people that have lower incomes. I've seen that too in a foundry. I've seen it. It's true. You can't even. I've always thought that in back of my head. So that's kind of funny that this is one of the questions that was actually being asked, because I always thought about that. I always thought about like, wow, they think they're obligated more, and they actually think that they are. Those people actually think they are. People with a higher pay, they think they deserve more privileges. I mean, look at actors and actresses today. They think they have a higher privilege versus us normal Americans.
You should see some of the customers that come into Starbucks when they.
So that's still going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, geez, I didn't even read this stuff.
Did we have anything else to add on that? I know we really discussed it.
No, I think we're
I have
good.
nothing to challenge on the privilege. I think I did my 2 challenges.
You do challenge. Good job. And I know Dr. Chanley warned us on it. It is very uncomfortable. Talk about diversity and privilege is even 10 times more uncomfortable in a team environment, in a work setting, or a social setting. But I think that it's important to have that discussion.
I think it's not necessarily that I don't like talking about it. I do like engaging, and I think people should engage in conversations like that.
No, I agree with you. I don't like talking about it. I don't like being worried about, people maybe not understanding, or a student, so yeah. Okay, the next point 9 is talking about other thoughts, comments, and discussion points. Did we have anything else that we needed to add into this on any of those things? Any of those questions or anything at all?
I got everything I had to say out.
Yeah.
Action. Chris?
Yeah, no. For sure, yeah. No, everything. I got everything out, yeah.
Okay. Next point. Do we have questions for Dr. Chanley?
No.
No.
If we did better this time around in terms
Yeah, there you go.
As far as like for the previous assignment that we went over with the team thing, and I know that this is something I should have probably have asked her. Dr. Chanley, do you think that it would be better that instead of us asking all these questions, just to have a template designed so that when we could do this review of the other team, and I'm just going for future classes, that you have a template designed so there's a little room for error is when it comes down to the teams doing the reviews of the other teams.
Yeah.
I feel it's a better guide for people. You guys agree with that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's either that or she's leaving it open-ended on purpose. I don't know. I would prefer a template. Makes life easier. It's already difficult doing these group come-togethers. I do enjoy them, but this is only like the first few times I've done it myself, so having a bit more backbone to it rather than trying to pull from the air might be beneficial. But that's up to her.
So in that spirit, I'm looking ahead, and it looks like the next meeting, the one we're having tomorrow, where we're creating the interview questions for our interviewee person. There is no template for that.
Right.
We need to bring our A game. We need to look at it and decide what questions we want to ask based on our readings and whatnot, so that we can discuss those tomorrow, so that we have the most productive meeting possible.
Okay.
I know it's a lot, but we got to do that. The thing. One thing I wanted to mention, I apologize, and I don't know if I'm supposed to mention it tomorrow or today, but I talked with, I think you, Chris, or you, Hank, about we need an interviewee. We have to come up with someone to interview. So if anyone has any suggestions, please bring them. We're looking for somebody that could be available. Somebody that you do not work with is ideal, not in your direct team. Somebody who has led a team, created a team, could be virtual, could be in person, and someone who has availability to be interviewed by us and is willing to do that. So you need to think about that, create a little profile for them so that we can bring it up to the team. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, we're bringing those out tomorrow.
Tomorrow, so that we can vote on who we want to interview, what the benefit of that person would be, and I think that that'd be a good thing. I have a couple people, so I'll tell you guys about them tomorrow, and then we can just decide who we think we could benefit from, who we want to interview, basically.
Cool.
So yeah, if you don't have anyone that or whatever, it's no big deal. But if you do, if you can think of somebody that, family member, somebody who you go to school with and works full time, somebody that, is a favored customer at Starbucks. I mean, any of that, anything that you guys have.
Cool.
That's it. Next thing, how did this meeting go? She wants us to rely on the materials from the George Washington link on team effectiveness. We all read that link. I think it was part of another thing, and it was just talking about the assessment of individual performers, how they are contributing to team learning and whatnot. So how do we think that went? This meeting went.
I think
Chris?
Sticking with the
Chris,
schedule.
you're up first.
No, yeah, I think this meeting went really well. I think we did a really good job sticking to the agenda. It did feel like, maybe I was like a little bit more worried about, length of responses, but it turned out that we were right on the dot. So, and I think everybody got out everything they wanted to say. And in terms of the sensitive topics that we were talking about, I think it was all good. I think it was an open dialogue. Yeah.
Kyle, you're up next.
How
do you think it went?
For not reading it at all, I think I did really well. I appreciate you guys rescheduling this meeting. I just want to say that I think the meeting went really well. I'm sorry that I look like I am very ill right now. Like I am holding it together.
Mm-hmm.
And
thank you while you're doing it.
Yeah, man. I'm bad.
Giving you a virtual pat on the back there, buddy.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to skip my chore for today, because now my wife had to clean out the chicken coop, so that was great.
And thank you in advance for that one-page single-spaced paper, too. On what was
Candyland.
Candyland. Can't wait. And, of course, it's going to correlate into team membership and effectiveness, right? Because that's the whole point of the paper.
Oh, great.
Or email works best. Thank you so much for that. Hank, you're up. How did the team meeting go this meeting?
I've got nothing to really add. I think we hit it on the nose. It sounds like everyone took Dr. Chanley's advice to heart, and I share with what you were saying, Chris, that I was worried we were going to have too short of responses and not enough feedback, but I think we were able to flesh everything out that we wanted to and really dive into some of the things that we were interested in. So I think it went really well. I think everyone got their voices out there and everyone had equal opportunity to speak without being spoken over. So good.
Absolutely. I agree with you guys. Any changes needed for the next meeting? The change that we are going to do is Kyle is going to submit. That's an individual thing. The change we're going to do is the third meeting, the meeting tomorrow. Chris is going to be facilitator instead of me being facilitator. And that is the meeting that we're going to create, those interview discussions.
What am I submitting as an individual thing?
Excuse me?
What am I submitting?
Your individual notes? Content notes?
Yeah.
And then have some questions prepared or considerations for interview questions.
Correct. And that's most definitely we need to do is we need to come prepared. What do you want to say? 3 to 5 questions?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Don't make them boilerplate stuff. Make them interesting. That way we all don't come up with, what do you do for work tomorrow?
Well, they have to leverage off the readings that she gave us too.
Right.
And then keeping in mind, of course, that this is about teams, leadership, creating diverse teams, and also leading virtual teams. So, yeah. So 3 to 5 questions. I think if we go through those questions, we can expand on them and then maybe come up with, I don't even know if there's a limit to questions that we need. But I apologize, I haven't gotten that far. But yeah, I think we can expand and create, and we all kind of seem to be on the same page a lot of times. So if we each come up with 3 to 5, then we can come up with 5 solid.
Cool.
And then
roles for the next meeting.
Pardon me?
Roles for this next meeting are the same.
The roles for the next meeting are the same, with the exception of Chris on Friday is going to be the facilitator.
Cool.
Chris, can you handle the facilitator and host role?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're good with uploading?
Yep.
Okay, score. And then date and time we're talking about Friday. Now that's our one thing you need to remember when you create the Zoom is you got to email Dr. Chanley that link. Just like you email us, include her on that link also for the Zoom meeting for Friday, for tomorrow. Chris.
Oh, okay. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Because she wants to go over the instructions for the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What's the time tomorrow again?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Cool.
All right. So that concludes this meeting. We do have the next meeting, which is the review of the written report from the other team, which is assignment 3.4. It needs to be done today. How long of a bio break did you guys want to take?
I don't know. 5-10 minutes.
Let's go with the solid 10.
Pardon?
Yep.
10
We have
minutes.
an agenda thing for the other meeting.
How do I end this recording? There it is.
We do have an agenda for it, and it is